is for the win. This 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 is for the win. 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 This is for the win.
Welcome back to the CPENN for the Win Show. This is your host, Charles Penn, and we are back with episode number 20 as it is officially Super Bowl week. Everybody's looking forward to this anticipated matchup. Mahomes against Brady, Chiefs versus Buccaneers, two of the top stars in the National Football League. We're going to get to that at some point in the show. I know everybody's going to look forward to that. But first, we have some breaking news from the NBA. Looks like there is going to be an NBA All-Star game after all. At first, it was originally set to be in Indianapolis this year, but the NBA decided not to go ahead and have the All-Star game there. They decided to cancel it. At some point, it looked like the NBA was just going to cancel the All-Star game in general. But, since the NBA took out a $900 million loan, I'm guessing that the bill from Walt Disney World might have got a bit expensive. So they're trying to get all the funds back as much as possible. So now the NBA and the National Basketball Players Association, they agreed to have the All-Star game in March 7th to be exact, down in Atlanta, the ATL, where just about everything is open down there, along with all the other states in the South. So March 7th it is. We're going to have the NBA All-Star game. And another thing with the All-Star game is they're going to go back to the old format, the East versus West, which is good, which is a good thing. So they didn't need team captains in the first place. Like, I think the fans picked up on obviously being LeBron. It was going to be obvious that LeBron was going to be the team captain every year, basically, in the All-Star game. And the fans might have caught on to that, and like some players, I've heard like some of the players just like, man, I don't like the team captain format. This is going to be LeBron all the time, or like there's some players that didn't want to play LeBron, or just like players that didn't want to play with each other, period, whether they got picked to be teammates or not. So, but the East versus West, they definitely need to come back, man, because the reason why the East versus West format went away anyway is that, not to go at LeBron, but it was blatantly obvious, man, the dude was getting popped in the mouth. I'm sorry, he was getting popped in the mouth by Kobe Bryant and Chris Paul for like, what's that, 8 out of the last 10 appearances before they changed the format. So that's why it went to the team captain format. Like, at first it was like a cool idea, the concept, like, yeah, team captains, let's like pick up ball, pick your team. But as time went on, people caught on to the fact that LeBron was just getting a super team all of a sudden. You know what I mean? Like, it just seemed like he was getting all the good players all the time for whatever reason. Because last year, to me, it looked blatantly obvious when Giannis was picking his team. I'm like, what's going on here, man? Because some of the picks was just crazy to me. I'm like, is he intentionally being told to pick these players to make LeBron look good, or is he really making these picks on his own? So I don't know. But it was great to have the East versus West format back. But I know one thing, man. In all honesty, they really could have left this game out the schedule completely. But they're not like the NFL, where the NFL, they're pretty solid on money, so they had the kind of sense in the mindset, and they know and they're aware of what's going on in the world right now in regards to Corona, COVID-19 and everything. So they decided not to have the Pro Bowl this year. But on the NBA, on the other hand, they hurting for funds right now. So they trying to get as much money back as possible. So they went ahead and had the All-Star game. And right now, according to the votes right now, we got the leaderboard as far as the votes right now. Of course, LeBron James, he's leading all the forwards out west. In the East is Kevin Durant. And then as far as the backcourt, the guards, you got Steph Curry out west, and in the East is Bradley Beal. And Bradley Beal, much deservedly so, man. Bradley Beal has been on the tear right now, just scoring the heck out of the basketball and doing whatever he can to win games for the Wizards, even though it's been a rough year. So that's your current leaderboard as far as the votes go so far. And we'll just see what happens with the All-Star game. I think if everything goes according to plan as far as like who gets selected, whether it's the starters or bench players, it might be a good game. You just gotta hope these guys actually go out there and, compete and show some pride. But we've seen with the past few All-Star games that haven't been the case, with the exception of last year. They had to put in a rule in the fourth quarter, make it like the basketball tournament you see on ESPN, to where like it's the first to this certain number, and that's when the game finally got competitive. So we'll see what happens with it. While we're still talking about the association, let's go ahead and talk about the two dominant big men in the NBA. It seems like the big man is starting to come back slowly in the National Basketball Association. We just seen that Nikola Jokic and Joel Embiid were named the Players of the Month for December/January. They were the first set of big men to win Player of the Month since Dwight Howard and Yao Ming back in 2006, which is crazy. It's a long time, ain't it? So right now, currently, Jokic is averaging 27, 12, and 9, and the Nuggets are like 20 or 12 and 8. And the Philadelphia 76ers, they're the best team in the East currently. Joel Embiid is averaging 28 and 11, and he's shooting 54% from the field. Now, what makes these guys special is Joel Embiid. He's a dominant force of nature. He has all the post moves and skills. He crafts his game after Hakeem Olajuwon. They come from that same cloth. You know what I mean? And he loves to compete. He isn't afraid to go at you. But the thing that's hurt Joel Embiid throughout his years in the league is his durability. Like, his availability has been a big concern. And so far, everything's been good as far as his durability. Like, everything's been a green light for him so far. And we just gotta hope he keeps it up, because Philly's definitely gonna need him if they want to keep rolling. And speaking of Philly, man, like, just gotta give credit to Doc Rivers, man. Doc Rivers, he's always been a good regular season coach. You know what I mean? He's a great players coach in general. You know what I mean? He has a great relationship with the players for the most part. It's just that near the end, for some reason, it doesn't turn out well for Doc Rivers. Except for the 1 year in Boston, of course. He won his one chip and everything, but he had some downfalls. But other than that, man, like, him and Joel Embiid, they seem to be on the same page and everything. So my thing is this: Philly. I'm still gonna wait a few more games with Philly, man, because we've seen this before. Come playoff time, the game slows down, half court offense or whatever. The offense doesn't run as smooth and everything. But with Doc Rivers, I mean, things could change. It's just that the other components has got to come together. Now, we have seen that Tobias Harris, he's having the best season of his career, or one of the best seasons of his career. But we also remember he also did that with Doc Rivers as well in Orlando. And then you got Seth Curry, which is a very important piece they acquired. So they masking a bunch of things that Ben Simmons can't do right now. But Ben Simmons, he's playing solid defense. He's getting his points. I mean, not his points, but his rebounds and assists. So we look forward to Joel Embiid to dominate throughout the year. But we're just gonna see. I just got to see how Philly does in the playoffs. I'm from the show me state, So Philly got to show me something in the playoffs. Now let's talk about Jokic. Jokic, he's, to me, I think he's a little bit. I'm not gonna say a little bit more skilled than Embiid, but I think he has a slightly better basketball IQ, in my opinion. Because Embiid, because Nikola Jokic, he can play the game with his mind. You know what I'm saying? He has a very high intelligent basketball IQ. He knows how to set guys up and everything. He's one of the best big men to ever run the point. One of the best big men to run the offense in quite some time. He's a guy that you want in the post. Like, he's everything that you want in a post player in general. He initiates the offense. He leads by example. But when you watch him play, I mean, the casual fans, some people may not be totally enamored by Nikola Jokic because he kind of plays at a slow pace. You know what I mean? He's not really athletic, or he's not a guy that's gonna jump out the gym or everything. But he just knows how to control the game. He plays the game like chess. You know what I'm saying? He moves the pieces all over the board. You know what I mean? Whether he decides to, use the pawn, or whether he can use the king or queen, because he just got an array of moves. You know what I mean? And on top of that, like, just him in general, like, he knows how to dissect the defense when he is running the offense. And I think that's what separates him from a lot of players in this league. So, but the Nuggets, the thing with them is that they are rolling. They are starting to get the chemistry back together. But you still got to have concerns with regards to their defense, regards to them defensively. Now, I don't know if they're going to trade for somebody at the trade deadline just to have some of that perimeter defense back in the fold. But I think the Nuggets down the line, they should be okay. I mean, we're going to see Jamal Murray eventually have that run to where he'll just go off on the street because he's the type of guy that's pretty streaky. And Michael Porter Jr., he's starting to find his footing ever since he got back from COVID and, dealing with a back injury and everything. And then it's just that with that team, we've been seeing Gary Harris. He's a guy that's been a Nugget for a long time, but he always gets hurt. Like, his availability is just not there for some reason. And I think the Nuggets definitely need somebody just in case he goes down again, to bring that perimeter defense and that intensity and everything. But, overall, the Nuggets, I mean, I originally had them going to the Western Conference Finals before the season started. I mean, I'm not too sure right now. But if there's one guy that can lead them back to that position is Nikola Jokic. And we just got to hope everything falls in place. But those two are dominating the league, and they're definitely going to be the top two vote getters as far as big men for the All-Star game. And moving forward, it's going to be interesting to see how their games evolve. Now, I want to shout out some other big men too. Everybody knows about AD, Anthony Davis. He won the NBA championship and everything. This year, his season's kind of down a little bit, but it's still a long way to go. AD, he can get back to form and start dominating per usual, like his usual self. And then you got other guys like Nikola Jokic in Orlando. He's highly skilled. Hit the outside shot. He's got an array of post moves himself. So there's a bunch of big men. Actually, I'm going to mention this guy too, Christian Wood. I mean, Christian Wood is one of the favorites for most improved player of the year right now. So we got to mention him too. So slowly but surely, it seems like the big man is starting to come back to the NBA. And I said this a while ago, that the NBA needs to start involving the big man in the game again. Because originally, when the NBA was first formed, like, it was usually a big man game. And, like, it's nothing against the guards or anything, I grew up watching Jordan, you know what I mean? Jordan was a great player. I mean, Isaiah Thomas, Allen Iverson, Kobe Bryant. I mean, you can name all kinds of guards. But at the end of the day, when you wanted to win a championship, the offense majority of the time was ran through the big man. So it's a great thing to see right now. We are now moved on to the Super Bowl, the game that many people have been waiting for a very long time. For me, this wait has been very excruciating. Like, waiting on the Super Bowl, it feels like a month in comparison to 2 weeks. I mean, I just been hearing all kinds of stuff throughout the week. Stuff from the Buccaneers and of course stuff from the Chiefs. But just been hearing all this talk about, Tom Brady's not willing to give up the crown. I mean, that's cool and all, but Mahomes ain't afraid to take it. These two have already gone through some battles. You know what I'm saying, through the regular season. And, he had that one playoff game in 2018, the AFC Championship game, in which, the Chiefs, they started out slow, and I don't think they scored at all in the first half. But, Patrick Mahomes and the offense got going, and they made it a game. It's just that they didn't win the coin toss in overtime, and they couldn't get a stop. And that's why the Chiefs lost. And since then, the Chiefs have won some of their battles with Tom Brady. And Tom Brady, he got his too, but it seems like lately, ever since Mahomes got in the league, he's pretty much gotten the best of Tom Brady. And in this particular matchup, we go back to week 12, the Chiefs were dominating this game. First quarter, just off rip, Tyreek Hill had over 200 yards receiving and 2 touchdowns, I believe. And Carlton Davis was on him for the most part, which is crazy. Now, in this matchup, I don't think the Buccaneers going to let him run wild like that. I mean, I could see them doubling Tyreek. Just maybe look like it's man-to-man coverage with a safety help over the top. Because in that last matchup, the Buccaneers didn't have safety help over the top, which is a big mistake. In regards to defending a guy like Tyreek Hill, you definitely got to look out for the big explosive play. You definitely got that safety over the top. So and for the Buccaneers, if they want to have a shot at winning this game, they got the double Tyreek at the line of scrimmage, and then they also got to have a safety over the top. And if it's just a corner at the line of scrimmage, guarding Tyreek. So it'll be kind of like how Belichick schemes it up a little bit when the Patriots play the Chiefs, because he does a pretty good job at scheming up against the Chiefs offense for the most part. It's just that the Chiefs offense, it's extremely difficult to slow down because they have all kinds of weapons. Now, we also got to factor in the Chiefs. They're waiting on confirmation from Sammy Watkins as to whether he's going to play or not. All signs are pointing to him playing. Now, if he plays, that's a huge plus because I also remember back in Week 12, he was pulling coverage away from Tyreek. He was pulling coverage away from Travis Kelce. Like, whenever he went in motion, and like when them safeties try to creep up and they see Sammy go in motion, they was backing up. And all of a sudden, it created holes in the defense where Tyreek or Travis Kelce would just sit in that zone or, find a space in the defense and Patrick will find them. So those guys are just having great chemistry overall. And the crazy part about that Week 12 matchup is that Patrick Mahomes had a fumble in the red zone. And also, there was a point where Travis Kelce was trying to throw a touchdown pass to Patrick Mahomes instead of just running in. And then there was a big play in the third quarter of that game where Patrick Mahomes and Tyreek Hill, not Patrick Mahomes and Tyreek Hill, but Patrick Mahomes and Mecole Hardman wasn't on the same page. And Mecole Hardman could have turned up 89 yards for a touchdown. So really, this game really could have been a blowout, honestly. Like, they was up 27-10 through three quarters, and the Chiefs just let off the gas, you know what I mean? Because they figured they had the game wrapped up. And this is what I've been saying about Tom Brady. You know what I mean? Tom Brady, he's one of the greatest players of our time. He's gonna go down as one of the greatest players to ever play the game of football. But Steve Spagnuolo has been this man's kryptonite. And we seen it in the two Super Bowls he appeared in against the Giants. And Steve Spagnuolo was the defensive coordinator with the New York Giants. And in those two Super Bowls, Tom Brady didn't get the 20 points. The first Super Bowl, when the Patriots was undefeated and they was one win away from tying the 72 Dolphins, the Patriots struggled that game. I believe the Patriots only had 14 points that game. And then the second Super Bowl matchup a few years down the road, they only had 17 points. So Steve Spagnuolo's gotten the best of Tom Brady. And in the last 4 games, Tom Brady is 1-3 against Steve Spagnuolo. He's only thrown 7 touchdowns. He's thrown 6 interceptions. And so, like, his passer rating has been kind of you know what I mean? So Steve Spagnuolo has gotten the best of Tom Brady throughout his career for the most part. And the reason why is that Tom Brady has having a difficult time reading the front sevens. Like, Spagnuolo will sometimes throw in a NASCAR package and put it in 5 defensive linemen, or, he'll have linebackers in certain gaps. Like, sometimes he'll have linebackers in the A gap to make it look like, they about to blitz and everything, and then they'll just back up. And the front four, whether it's the front 4 or the front 5, they still find a way to get pressure on Tom Brady. So Spagnuolo does a pretty good job of finding ways to confuse Tom Brady, and he also does a good job of making it easier for the defensive line to create that pressure to where, like, they get in Brady's face, to where if they get in Brady's face, Brady can't sit back there like a statue and get comfortable like he's accustomed to and throw them dimes like he usually does. So, like, they make Tom Brady hurry more than what he's accustomed to. And that's been the MO for Spag's defense throughout his career in his matchups against Brady. So I think in this game overall, I think the Chiefs defense is going to show up. I think they can create a few turnovers. I think I could see Brady turn the ball over twice in this game. And it wouldn't shock me if Tyrann Mathieu continues his great play and he gets an interception. And one more thing in regards to the Chiefs defense. The Chiefs defense has been getting slept on throughout the week. And I think that's a good thing for the Chiefs. It's a good thing that the Chiefs defense is under the radar, because people really believe that the Chiefs can't really stop the run. The stats, yeah. They're like almost below average when stopping the run. But we seen it last year. They showed up when it was that time. They showed up when it was time to stop the run. But the way the Buccaneers offense is set up, everything pretty much goes through Tom Brady. Like, Leonard Fournette's been good. He's been good for them. But I really think the Chiefs overall is just going to show up. Like, the only matchup that's going to be concerning for the Chiefs is Mike Evans. Because Mike Evans is just strong. He's that dude. He's big. He can go up and get the ball and everything. But other than that, man, I think the Chiefs defense is going to show up for this one. And I already talked about the offense. As good as the Buccaneers defense has been playing, like, at the end of the day, it's just too many weapons. It's too many weapons to account for. And I can see the Chiefs win this game by 10. So originally I had the score prediction of 34-24, but seeing that Tom Brady has struggled to put up points against Spags defense, it wouldn't shock me if this score ended up being 27-17. It wouldn't shock me if Brady comes up short on put up 20 points again. And the crazy part is, even though this is the first time the Buccaneers have ever hosted a Super Bowl at home as being the host of the Super Bowl, the Chiefs haven't lost a game on the road all season long. And the Chiefs have, every week they've gone on the road, they've been able to handle business. And this week, they're handling it like a business trip, as they're not even going to go down to Tampa until Saturday morning. So they just want to get in and handle their business and then get up out of there and celebrate. So Kansas City Chiefs expect the back-to-back champs, and I'm looking forward to seeing what the 2020 bye looks like. So now that I've talked about the Super Bowl, I want to talk about a former Kansas City Chief who left a sour taste in a lot of fans' mouths when, he decided to leave. But it's part of the business, it's part of the nature of the National Football League. Now, all of a sudden, throughout the course of history since that happened, this guy's been kind of lost in the shuffle as far as one of the greatest defensive pass rushers we have seen play the game. This is a guy that went to our rivals, like the Chiefs organization. They couldn't pay him. They couldn't keep him and Derek Thomas. So he decided to go to the divisional rival, and he got his 2 Super Bowl championships with the Denver Broncos. And this guy I'm talking about is Neil Smith, as many people forget how great he was. And Neil Smith will be this week's player we talk about on Way Back When. Neil Smith was born on April 10th, 1966, from New Orleans, Louisiana. And of course, I remember that because he used to have a restaurant here in Kansas City with some great food called New Orleans. But anyway, he came out of Nebraska. Neil Smith, throughout his NFL career, was one of the greatest pass rushers we have seen in our lifetime. He finished his career with 104.5 sacks, and he forced 30 fumbles. Neil Smith was a guy listed at 6'4", 270 pounds, and ran a 4.5. And his counterpart, Derek Thomas, also ran a 4.58. So Neil Smith was actually a little faster than Derek Thomas, along with him being stronger than Derek Thomas. Neil Smith, when he finished his playing career at the time when he retired, he was top 10 all-time in sacks. He's currently ranked 23rd. He's a 6-time Pro Bowler, 3-time All-Pro. But the thing about that is this. Neil Smith, he's currently not in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and I don't understand that. This is a guy that when he was out there on the field, he was a true dominant force. Like, him and Derek Thomas complemented each other so well. Like, you would see at times during the Chiefs run in the 90s, when they had one of the best defenses in the league, you would see them line up on the same side of the field, and those guys would just go out there and dominate. You know what I mean? And here's another thing, like, with Neil Smith, what he did, man, Neil Smith, when he got off that line, he showed not only that he could get off the ball quick and anticipate, but he showed great leverage against those right tackles. Because Neil Smith, he used to give the Denver Broncos hell, as you see in these clips here. Like, the majority of these clips you see here, you'll see Neil Smith basically dominating the Denver Broncos. And he was a guy that looked forward to playing the Denver Broncos like every year. And on top of that, him and DT, they also wreaked havoc against the Colts every year. But Neil Smith, he's a guy that's so underappreciated, especially here in Kansas City. Now, I can now on this segment, I usually go back in time and talk about, the great games, each of these players had and everything. But I'm gonna more so focus on the fallout, because at the time, before Neil Smith decided to not become a Kansas City Chief no more, or the Chiefs decided not to bring him back, Neil Smith was coming off a year in which he only had 4.5 sacks, which is pretty disappointing for his standards. But sometimes these things happen with great players. You know what I mean? They have down years. I mean, that's just part of the game. But what him and Derek Thomas able to do was special. And it's just unfortunate. That he didn't get a ring here in Kansas City. I mean, but at the end of the day, he had to do what was best for him. Like, the Chiefs said they didn't have the money for him, and they also Marty Schottenheimer also said that like when he's come out that down year, they felt like Neil Smith was on the decline of his career, and it motivated Neil Smith to essentially go to the rival, and he had a pep in his step again. And Neil Smith let his presence be known in the '97 playoff game with the Broncos and the Chiefs. Neil Smith, he forced the fumble on Elvis Gerbach, and also I think he had a sack in the game as well. But at the end of the day, you know, Neil Smith, he deserved his chips. You know what I mean? Unfortunately, like I wish it wouldn't have been the Broncos myself. You know, everybody was mad. Everybody was mad about that move. Like people thought Neil Smith was a traitor and everything. But sometimes the NFL is a business, and that's one of those business aspects right there. And Neil Smith, along with him getting those 2 rings, he also earned incentives as well. You know, based on his production and everything. So Neil Smith, he's a guy that should definitely be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, in my opinion. Like he was just a true dominant force, and you know, we just look back on his career. He was up there, like the last 4 years of his Chiefs career. He was up there with guys like Reggie White and Bruce Smith as far as like having the most sacks during that time period. So I just want to go ahead and give my flowers to Neil Smith today, and Neil Smith is a guy that we can definitely look back on and say that he's a guy that should definitely be mentioned in these conversations more often as far as one of the greatest pass rushers in NFL history. So Neil Smith, appreciate your time here in Kansas City. I don't have no beef with you as far as you going with the Broncos, even though it's tough, man. But at the end of the day, you did a lot for us here in Kansas City. So salute to you, Neil Smith. All right, well, before we go ahead and end the show for this week, looking forward to Super Bowl week, of course. But I just gotta pay my respects to the late great Kobe Bryant. You know, last week we didn't do a show, but this week I gotta get it in. You know, and just talk about my overall experience of what happened during that time. Like I was actually out in Los Angeles when Kobe tragically passed away, and at the time I was out in LA not only just to kick it and enjoy myself, but I was looking forward to the Lakers and Clippers game, you know, during that time period. And that game was supposed to be coming up on a Monday or a Tuesday, I believe. And like the night before when we arrived in Los Angeles, we had a good time and everything. We was watching the Lakers and 76ers. We was watching when LeBron James passed Kobe Bryant in career points. And, you know, that night, you know, we decided to step out and have a good time and everything. And then that next day, when I was in the shower, my cousin had knocked on the door after I got in the shower. He was like, Cuz, did you hear about Kobe Bryant? Did you hear about Kobe Bryant? I was like, dude, quit playing, man. Quit playing. What happened, man? And I went and checked my phone, and I seen the TMZ notification. I'm like, no, I don't believe it, man. I gotta see more, man. No way. And I was just praying that, you know, everything was cool and everything, and all these news outlets, they confirmed everything in regards to the tragic news, and the entire room was just silent for an hour straight. Like we couldn't believe it, man. Like a lot of people have said about Kobe already. Like we all felt like he was invincible. We all felt like Kobe was gonna be around, like how Bill Russell is right now, because Kobe was just getting started. You know, post basketball career, he was expanded the girls' game. You know, he was getting his daughter Gigi ready, and he was working out with a few WNBA players currently and future WNBA players. I've seen that, you know, he's working out with Sabrina Ionescu and Nafisa Collier, you know, and Diana Taurasi has showed up, and just a few WNBA players and future stars of the women's game in general. And it was just a great thing to see, man. Like I felt like Kobe had something major for the women's game moving forward. And he also was going to come out with his own shoe line, and I think his shoe line with a blue, it would definitely compete with Nike. I think Kobe was definitely building that roster. He had definitely had some guys in mind. He definitely had some girls in mind as far as, you know, promoting the Mamba brand and stuff. And it's just sad because ever since Kobe passed, I haven't watched a single episode of Detail. I haven't watched a single episode of Detail since, because it just doesn't hit anymore. You know, I appreciate what Vince Carter and Kevin Durant did for their appearances, but it's not the same, man. I haven't watched those since then. I mean, Kobe's basketball mind is just on a different level. Like when you hear him speak, you just listen closely. Like your attention is just on him because you know he's gonna throw in some gems, you know. And one of my favorite memories of Kobe is, I mean, it's not just the 81-point game, but I think my favorite moment is definitely Game 7 against the Celtics when he won his 5th and final chip. Because the 2 years prior to that, it was a gut-wrenching feeling. You know, seeing that the Lakers, they did blow Game 4. They had a big lead and they blew that game. And then Game 6, they got smacked by 39 points. And it was pretty embarrassing. But just for Kobe to be able to bounce back and have that redemption in Game 7. And the crazy part is, Kobe didn't have it, you know what I mean? Like, he was struggling shooting the ball the entire game. But he found a way to contribute in other ways. Like, he was on the glass, getting rebounds and playing solid defense, getting his teammates involved. I remember he made a big pass to Ron Artest, a.k.a. Meta Peace, for a 3. And just for them, just for the Lakers to get their revenge on their longtime rival Celtics was a great feeling. You know, and just for Kobe just to put his stamp in history as far as one of the greatest players in the NBA. So, salute to you, Kobe Bryant, man. We all miss you, man. You know, we've been having you on our minds from time to time. You know what I mean? Because you definitely had a lot more to give going forward, and it's just unfortunate. It's just unfortunate that you're no longer with us. But we know you're in good hands up above, and we're gonna miss you, big dog. We still miss you, man. So rest in peace. Mamba out. All right, so that's going to conclude this week's episode of CPENN for the Win Show, episode number 20. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and comment. And for the rest of you guys, looking forward to the Super Bowl with the Chiefs, defending Super Bowl champs. And once that clock hits 0 on Sunday night, I'll be looking forward to popping another bottle of champagne and celebrate as much as possible. Unfortunately, it's not going to be a parade, but hey, we're going to try to make it as fun as possible. So, till the next episode, we out of here.